Today we're going to be talking about 10 cards under £10 from the X and Y era. So why are these cards so cheap? We're going to have a look at Mega EX cards, we're going to have a look at full art cards, EX cards, and the regular holos. So let's get right into it with Mega EX. So the first card that we're going to have a look at is this Mega Scizor EX. This is a really cool one. I genuinely feel that maybe this isn't the best example because the full art Scizor is very cool, but I genuinely feel like a lot of these half art Mega EX cards are as good as the full art cards themselves. So I would say that in terms of the design of the card, they kind of look quite similar in some ways to the old first kind of generation of EX cards, and I think that's why I feel like a lot of nostalgia looking back at these cards. I wasn't collecting during this time, whenever it was in 2016, 2017 time when Breakpoint came out. So yeah, this card is a really awesome one, and like I said, all of these cards are still under £10. So £8.50 and $11.50 for the American audience. Yeah, all of these Mega EX cards have the Japanese writing coming across. I think that's a really interesting kind of typographic element. And yeah, it complements the Mega Pokemon really well in my opinion. Moving on to the population for this Scizor. As you can see, there's 51 of these in a PSA 10, and that's coming in at just under $90. So it's got a pretty low population, but it's not a crazy priced PSA 10 card. So I would say that's a pretty good thing to look at when buying this card, because it is very hard to find these types of cards in really good mint condition. So the next card we're going to look at is the Mega Blastoise EX. This one's really cool. There's a few of these Mega Blastoise EXs in the X and Y era, but the one that I'm highlighting today is from the X and Y base set. I think this one's just going to have a little bit more history, and I feel that the ones in the Evolution set, specifically the one with the kind of gold looking borders, it doesn't look as good for me as this card does. I think this card looks super cool. So yeah, I think under £10, it's a really great deal to pick this card up. And yeah, pretty similar to the Scizor, except it's probably got, well, it does have a much larger population than 10, much larger. I mean, these modern cards that are coming out with these populations in the thousands, and these cards have populations of, this is 163 copies in a 10. I would say that, yeah, these cards being under £10, if you can find near mint to mint copies of these cards, I think that's a really solid deal. And here we have $150 in the PSA 10. So that's a little bit more pricey, but that's something you'd expect from one of the starters. Next, we have the Mega Steelix EX. This one's from Steam Siege. So again, under £10. I really like this one. I mean, Steelix is one of my favorite Pokemon, but at the same time, I think the design and the energy in this card is awesome. I really like how it has the dual typing with the ground energy and how it kind of cuts through the middle. I think that's a really awesome design decision. And yeah, I just think it looks super cool. I think the Japanese writing doesn't interfere with the Pokemon itself. And yeah, I really think this is an awesome card. And I would say this is one of the instances where I actually prefer this half art card to the full art card. That might be unpopular, but there we go. This one a little bit more in a 10, 220, and sitting around $100. So there we have it. Not too much else to say about the population. Pretty similar on all of these cards. So next up, we've got the Mega Alakazam EX from Fates Collide, and again, under £10. I think this one's probably one of the most underrated cards I've seen in this kind of era, simply because I just think the design is so cool. I mean, everyone loves the Psychic type cards. One of the things that really stands out about these cards to me is actually the borders. In some of the borders, they have the kind of Cosmos Holo effect, and that really takes me back to the EX cards from the EX era. And I think they're the last kind of EX cards to have that. I mean, the modern cards from the Scarlet and Violet era just don't nearly have as much holographic texturing and all of that stuff. So I think that these cards are really awesome. And this one in particular, the Alakazam, with the spoons kind of flying around in the mid-distance, I think that is such a cool design. And yeah, I really enjoy this card. So again, relatively high populations for these cards, 205 and 252 in a 9. And here you can see the difference in price, and the last sold was very, very high for a PSA 10. So this might be one that's going to start to move up as time goes on. Right, so moving on to our next category, which is full arts. So here we have the Blacksmith. So this is an alternate art promo card that came in the trainer box, the premium trainer box. And that's a very expensive box now. I believe over £1,000 for that box. It's got a ton of really awesome alternate art promos. And this is an alternate art from the Flashfire set, so the Blacksmith. And as you can see, the Embor in the background, Embor doesn't get a ton of love in the TCG, and I mean, it's going to have a big card coming up in the new Black Bolt White Flare sets, I should say, which is, you know, might kind of make this card move a little more. But for me, it's one of the coolest looking full arts from the X and Y era. And this card being under £10 raw, I just think that's crazy to me. It's such an awesome card, especially when you see the population so low at 42 in a 10, and very hard to find sales data, and the last sale being $120 in a PSA 10. I think it's a really, really awesome card, and yeah, definitely one that I'm kind of looking out to try and purchase a near mint copy. Next we have the Fossil Researcher. Again, I just love these full art supporter cards. They are so cool. This one it's a really, really cool card. I love the background of this card, the hexagonal pattern, and the fact that it's got the, I think it's pronounced the Almora, or however it is, the dinosaur with the Aurora patterns coming off it. I think it's so cool. I mean, this is something you'll see through all of these cards I've picked in this category. They're all featuring the supporters as well as a Pokemon in them very prominently. So I think that they're very kind of cool timepieces for this era. And yeah, I would definitely love to have more of these cards. So this one has a population of only 5 I could find. This is the data that I could find. If you kind of search through the internet, you might find a little bit more about this card. But yeah, I couldn't find any PSA 10s of this card, and so therefore no pricing data for that. And 58 in a 9, so this is a very low graded card. That might be to do with not a lot of people want to grade this card, potentially. But, you know, it's also could be that it's a very, very rare card for people to have in good condition. So yeah, this is a really, really cool one. And yeah, that's what I would say about this card, the Fossil Researcher. So now moving on to Brock's Grit. This one is such a throwback for me. I just love the design of this card from Evolutions. I love how it has the vintage trainer logo at the top and the typography. I just find the typography so cool. I'm such a nut for the typography. And yeah, this is just such an awesome card. Usually since I've kind of got back into looking at Pokemon cards, I've noticed that the female trainers are worth a ton more. But for me, you know, I love Brock. I think he's such an awesome character. And to have like a modern supporter card of Brock, I know, you know, it's almost 10 years ago now, Evolutions, but to have a card of Brock like this in a modern format, full art card, with the vintage style typography, I just think that is such a cool thing. And the fact that this card is £5.80, I mean, I have one of these cards, it's in pretty good nick, but I'm actually thinking maybe I should pick up a couple more just so I can pass them on to my kids, because they love Brock as well, so, and the original anime as well. So let's move on to the population for this card. A lot more. So this is over 1,000 population. You can see that this was kind of, these cards came out, I'm sure there was a lot more like fanfare around the Evolution set, you know, and there has been as time's gone on, so that's probably why there's a lot more of these cards graded than the previous cards in this list. But yeah, I think you can pick up a PSA 9 copy. That's a pretty safe bet for me. Just, you know, it's barely the price of grading for a PSA 9 copy of this card. I think that's a pretty good deal. And yeah, PSA 10, £60. There is a lot of them, so I would maybe go for the 9 on this card. But yeah, that's not to take anything away from it. Really, really cool card Really love this design and yeah, the typography specifically. So now we've got Professor Sycamore, and this one is pretty nice. I mean, it's probably my least favorite out of the 4 cards, but a common theme that you're going to see here is that each of these characters, they are male, and that probably has like an effect on their value. And this is no exception. But here again, you've got the chest pin running along. I think the green on the chest pin contrasts really well with the orange, and the Pokeball pattern really helps this card as well. I think it's a really interesting looking card and something very unique for a collection. Again, under £10, this one only £6.60, $9, really, really good deal. We've got around the same, $255, $272 for this card, $80 in a PSA 10. Pretty similar, this one's on the cheap side of the ones we've looked at. Absolutely love these cards. Let's move on to the regular EXs. So we've got some fan favorite Pokemon here. Firstly, we've got Rayquaza. I absolutely love these regular EX cards. Like I said, I've probably said this a couple of times in my previous videos, but I grew up collecting in the EX era. And one of my, obviously my chase cards were the EX cards. They were just, you know, you could get probably one in like every 6 or 7 packs. And that's what I was chasing while I was opening packs in the car on the way back from school. That's what I was trying to get, those EX cards, and I would be so excited when I pulled those. And these cards really take me back to that era, and they're kind of the modern equivalent for me. Like the new EX cards just don't really come close. So yeah, I think that this one has a lot going for it. The Rayquaza, obviously a fan favorite, but also I think the artwork is pretty awesome. It's one of my favorites of Rayquaza, and the way it's kind of smashing out of the card, all of the holo pattern that's coming around the card, breaking out at the bottom. I just think it's such an awesome card and so underrated at under £10. This is just a no-brainer for me. This is just an awesome card. Again, not a super high population, and that might be to do with the fact that not a ton of people are getting this card graded, but I also think that it is a hard card to grade, considering I've been looking out for this card and there are just hardly any really nice mint copies of this card available, and therefore, you know, the PSA 10 is going to command a premium, and $250 for a PSA 10, only 207 population. I think that is a pretty interesting card, pretty interesting price. So now moving on to the Gyarados EX. This one came in a tin, I believe. It's a promo card. Obviously, it's a shiny Gyarados for £6, $8. What a deal this is. It's actually such a vintage looking card, such an awesome card. Yeah, 163 in a 9, 162 in a PSA 10, $205 for a PSA 10 recent sale. That's shot up recently. There's been a few sales of just over $200, and yeah, it was sitting probably around more like 100, 120 before. So it really has kind of shot up recently, and I can see why it really has that vintage feeling, and the fact that it's a shiny Gyarados, you just can't go wrong with that. Next, we've got the Lugia EX from Ancient Origins. I would say this is one of my like sleeper cards that I would say is super kind of underlooked at in this era. Again, I think these EX cards are so nice. They have the holo foil around the borders. The card art is awesome. I love how the Lugia is kind of breaking out. I really enjoy it when the actual art of the card, the Pokemon, breaks out of the card and it actually, the artwork goes off the edge. I think that's such an awesome design decision. And yeah, I just think everything about this card works so well. And yeah, I absolutely love it. I love the pattern kind of drawing you in. It's like Lugia's in this whirlwind. And yeah, for me, very nostalgic of the old EX cards. And when you look at that, I think it's Unseen Forces that the Lugia EX is in. That card is insanely expensive. So to be able to kind of pick up a card like this, I think for £5.50, $7, what a buy that is. And there's 238 in a 10, 259 in a 9, $80 for the 10. I think that's a pretty good pickup. So yeah, I would probably go for the 10 over the 9 in that instance. But yeah, for me, I don't really collect the PSA cards. I mainly just collect raw cards. I would love to find another. If I found another mint copy at this price, at the £5.50 price, I'd definitely purchase it. Even anything under £10, I'd purchase it if it was in really good condition. So next we've got the Glaceon EX from XY Fates Collide. This one's cute as well. This is just another one that is, you know, a fan favorite Pokemon, an evolution. They're getting a lot of love at the moment. £5.70, 159 in a 10, $58. You can't go wrong. Finally, we've got the Holo cards. So here we've got the Gengar from XY Breakthrough. This is an awesome card. So this is the pricing for this is not the Cosmo Holo foil card. It's actually just for the regular Holo, but I think you can kind of go with either. It doesn't really make a huge difference to me. I would probably like to have the Cosmo Holo one a little bit more, and I think that one's a little bit more expensive, but I think the regular Holo being at under £10 is just such an awesome artwork. I mean, this is probably one of my favorite artworks for Gengar, like full stop. So I think that this is such a cool card to pick up, and one that is kind of undervalued at the moment. I think at under £10. When you look at some of these like vintage Holos, you look how much they kind of go for. And if you're able to find, again, it's so hard to find these cards in really good condition, and the population report is a testament to that. Only 37 of these cards in a PSA 10, and the recent sales being at $400. I think that's a really good sign for the future of this card if you're looking at it as a kind of investment. And yeah, I think it's an awesome card, one of my favorite Gengar artworks, and yeah, definitely one to have a look at if you've never seen that card before. Next, we have the Arceus promo. So this one is one of the Cosmo Holos, and yeah, I just think it's a really majestic Arceus card. It really reminds me of like if Arceus was an earlier generation Pokemon and it had Holos in say like the Neo era or the EX era, this is kind of what I would imagine the artwork would look like, and therefore it's like a super nostalgic, super cool card to me. I think that £6, $8, awesome. Only 5 of them in a PSA 10, 74 in a PSA 9. Again, $400 recent sale. I think these are really slept on, these Holos from the XY era, especially the really kind of high-end ones. Next, we've got a bit of a more budget pick. I think this is such an underrated, such a cool card. I really love these half art reverse Holos from the X and Y era, and I just wanted to throw one in there to show that some love. And I think this Entei from the XY Ancient Origins is probably one of my favorites. I really like the Kingdra as well. But yeah, this Entei is really, really cool. And £3.50, you can actually find this card very, very cheap. And it's not graded a lot. You know, you could kind of expect that. Probably not a lot of people thinking of grading this card. But there are 42 of them in the 10, and there have been recent sales pretty high at $132. Okay, so now we're moving on to our final card, and it is none other than the Lugia. So this would be the cracked ice version. There is a regular rare version from Fates Collide, but I believe it's from a deck, the cracked ice version, and this one is super, super nice. I just love I think the cracked ice works so well on this card specifically, and the artwork for a Lugia card, to have an artwork like this, to have a holo foil, and to be only, you know, $5, I think that is such a steal. And yeah, I absolutely love this artwork of Lugia. It really kind of reminds me of the alternate art from Silver Tempest in terms of it's really got that kind of dark feeling to it. So I absolutely love this card. And again, a really not as low as the other ones, but it's still a low population, only 78 in PSA 10 for a card that was, you know, from 2016. I think that's pretty good, and $200, that is a lot. So what I would do is probably really kind of scour the market, check out eBay, you know, try and find a really, really nice clean copy of this card. Maybe look in your local card stores, ask about this card, say you're looking for it, and yeah, just try and get some nice kind of near mint copies or copy of this card, because I think this is one that's going to be really hard to, you know, when it goes up in price in the future, it's going to be really hard to find as a near mint copy. So yeah, thank you so much everybody for watching. It's so awesome of you to join me, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video, and definitely if you did, consider subscribing, and yeah, I'll see you on the next one.